Hello students, today we are going to study about the second chapter of snapshots named The Address, has been written by Marga Minko. In this story we will find that during World War II the Germans, the Nazis under Hitler, attacked Holland, where 90% of the people were Jews. Many of the Jews fled in fear to other countries. Thousands were imprisoned in concentration camps. A woman and her little daughter had also to leave their home. The woman left all things with a woman known to her. After some time, the woman died. However, her daughter remembered the place where she used to live with her mother. Long after the war, she came to the town where she used to live with her mother. So she went to meet the woman with whom her mother had left all her things, but the woman refused to recognize her because she didn't want to return the things. She had to. So let's come to know the story of The Address. The narrator of the story is the daughter herself. She is describing the story. After many years, the narrator, who is now a young woman, comes back to the woman with whom her mother had left all her belongings. The narrator rang the bell. A woman opened the door. The narrator asked, "Do you know me?" The woman looked searchingly at the narrator. She had opened the door half, in the chink way. A little bit, she opened the door. The narrator came closer. On the step, the woman said, "No, I don't know. I don't know you." The narrator told the woman her mother's name and said that she was her daughter. The woman held her hand on the door as though she wanted to prevent it opening any further. Her face gave no sign of recognition at all. She kept staring at the narrator silently. The woman was very shrewd. She refused to recognize the narrator. The narrator thought that she was perhaps mistaken. Perhaps she was not the same woman. She had seen her years ago for a moment only. Perhaps she had rung the wrong bell of the door. It was not the right address. She had come on the right door. sorry, on the wrong door. She was asleep. But then the narrator looked at the dress the woman was wearing. She was wearing the green knitted cardigan that her mother used to wear. The narrator's mother had also given her cardigan to the lady. The wooden buttons had become pale from washing. The woman saw that the narrator was looking at the cardigan and half hid herself behind the door. The girl now knew that she had come to the right place because it was the same cardigan as the mother gave her, as the mother used to wear. The narrator asked, "Do you know me?" Again she asked, "Did you know my mother?" The narrator asked the lady, "Did you know my mother?" Then woman said, "Have you come back? I thought none of you had come back." She asked whether you have come, and she thought that you will never come. Narrator said, "Only I have come back, only me." But the lady said, "Sorry, I cannot do anything for you." The narrator said that she has come there by the special train. She wanted to talk to the lady for few moments. But the lady did not want to talk to the narrator. She said, "No, it is not convenient for me now to talk to you. Come another time, I will talk. But this time, sorry, I can't talk." The woman very carefully, cautiously closed the door as though no one inside the house should be disturbed. The narrator looked at the nameplate again. On the name, Dorling. On the nameplate, on the nameplate, Dorling was written. It was in black letters on white enamel paint. And first Dorling was written, then a bit higher the number was written, number 46. Dorling number 46. It was written on the nameplate. The narrator walked back slowly to the station. She began to think about her mother, who had given her the address years ago. Then it was the first half of the war. The narrator had come home for a few days. Perhaps she was then a student and lived in the school hostel. She could see immediately something about the rooms had changed. She missed various things. Then her mother told her about Mrs. Dorling. It was Mrs. Dorling. The woman was an old acquaintance of her mother. whom the mother hadn't seen for years. But then she had started coming regularly. Although the narrator's mother had not seen him for years, but the woman had suddenly turned up, suddenly come and made her contact with the narrator's mother again. She renewed the contact. Since then, she started coming regularly to her house. And the narrator had never heard of her till then. All the Jews living in Holland were in great fear of the Nazis. Many of them had fled in fear. They had run away. The narrator and her mother were also Jews. The mother, like the other Jews, had decided to leave the place quickly. Mrs. Dorling had perhaps come to know of it. She was not a Jew and had no fear of war. She had very cunningly renewed her acquaintance with the narrator's mother. She had suggested to the narrator's mother that she could keep her belongings safe with her if she had decided to get away from there. It was the trick of the woman. As the narrator walked back to the station, she remembered. She recalled what her mother had said about the woman. Every time she leaves here, she takes something home with her. She took all the table silver. The woman, the acquaintance of her mother, comes regularly to her house. Whenever she comes to her house, she takes something from her mother. She took all the table silver, dishes made of silver in one go. And then the antique plates that hung there, she had trouble carrying those large vases. She was not able to carry the large vases, and the narrator was worried. She got a crick. She thought that the narrator was worried to see all that. The woman was facing a problem to carry the heavy vessels. She felt stiff in her muscles, especially in the neck. She felt problem in her back from the crockery. The mother shook her head. The mother told her everything. She continued, I would never have dared ask her. Mother told her daughter, the narrator, that she had never dared ask the woman why she was taking the belongings, although she was not carrying the belongings easily. She suggested it to me. Her mother suggested her. She said that she had not dared ask her. She suggested it to me herself. She even insisted. She wanted to save all my nice things. The lady convinced the narrator's mother that she would save all the things. When she would come back, she would get all the things. If we have to leave here, we shall lose everything, she said. The woman was very cunning. She told that if the narrator's mother would leave the place, all things would be damaged, and she would keep them carefully. Whenever they would come back, they would get everything safe. When the mother said all these things, the narrator asked, have you told mom? Mother, have you told her that we'll take back those things when we come back? When we will come back, we will take all the things. Have you told? It would simply be an insult to talk like that. Usually narrator's mother said, no, it would not be good. She was very sober nature. She said, and think about the risk she is running each time she goes out of our door with a full suitcase or bag. The mother means to say that the woman could be in trouble if she was seen by the Nazis. She had taken the risk, so the mother did not ask some more questions to her. The narrator was not completely convinced. She was not satisfied with her mother. They didn't talk anymore about it. While thinking all this, the narrator had arrived at the station. She did not pay more attention to the things on the way. She was walking through those familiar places again for the first time since the war. But she did not want to upset herself with past memories. She did not want to have them. When she was sitting in the train, the picture of Mrs. Dorling was coming to her mind. How cunning she was. She had seen her for the first time. The same image was coming of Mrs. Dorling to her mind when she caught her glimpse of the face at the first time. It was the morning after the day her mother had told her about Mrs. Dorling. She had got up late and coming downwards, she saw her mother about to see someone out. She was a woman with a broad back. The first time the narrator saw the woman, Mrs. Dorling. When she coming downstairs at the back, she found that Mrs. Dorling had a broad back, and the mother told the woman that she was my daughter. She introduced me. The woman moved her head and took the suitcase under the coat rack. So when she was taking the suitcase, she was wearing brown coat and a sleeveless. When Mrs. Dorling was taking the things from her house, the narrator asked her mother, does she live far away? Does she live far away? Because the woman had quite some difficulty in carrying the heavy case. So she found that how she would carry the heavy suitcase. So she asked her mother, does she live far away? It was the first time when her mother told the address of Mrs. Dorling. She lives in Marconi Street, number 46. Remember that. It is the address of Mrs. Dorling, Marconi Street, number 46. The narrator had remembered 46 Marconi Street, but she had waited a long time to go there. Initially, after the freedom of country, after the liberation of country from the Nazis, she was completely not interested in all that stored articles stuff. She was afraid of looking at the things that belonged to her mother, because her mother was no more in the world. She was dead. So things were useless. Things remained hidden in the boxes for years, because mother was no longer alive in the world. But one day she became interested. She became curious to know all the things which her mother left. She thinks that must still be at that address. She wanted to see the things left by her mother. She wanted to touch the things, because these were the things of her mother. And remember those old days. After her first visit, that was in vain, to Mrs. Dorling's house, the narrator decided to try to the second time. The first visit to the Dorling's house was useless. This time, on the second time, narrator decided to go there. After her visit in vain, she decided to go there, but we were completely waste. Second time she went there. On the second time, she found a girl of about 15 years old. That girl opened the door. The narrator asked her about her mother, whether she was at home or not. She informed the narrator, no, she was not there. She told her that her mother has gone for some work. Then narrator said, no matter, she will wait for her mother's return. The narrator followed the girl into the house. An old-fashioned iron candle holder was hanging there next to the mirror. The narrator at once knew that it was her mother's. They never used to that because it was much more difficult to handle with a single candlestick. The girl of 15 asked the narrator to sit. The narrator kept standing horrified. She found herself in the middle of the things. She wanted to see again, but she felt suffocated, oppressed by the strange atmosphere, by the tasteless way everything was arranged. Everything was poorly arranged. She hardly dared to look around her. The girl moved a chair for her. The narrator sat down and looked at the woolen tablecloth. She started rubbing the tablecloth. Her fingers grew warm from rubbing. She followed the lines of the pattern. On the edge there was a burn mark that had never been repaired. It belongs to the narrator. The girl said, "My mother will be back soon. Can I prepare the tea for you? I have already made a tea for her. Will you have a cup of tea?" The girl has already made the tea for her mother. She offers the tea. The narrator said, "Thank you," and looked up. The girl put cups ready on the table. She had a broad back like her mother. She poured tea from a white pot. The pot had a gold border on the lid. The narrator remembered it to see the pot. The girl opened the box and took some spoons out. Then the narrator poured out, she poured out tea for the narrator. The girl poured out tea for the narrator. The narrator said, "It is very nice box," to her side. The girl laughed and said, "My mother says it is antique. It is a very old kind of. We have got lots more." Then the girl pointed round the room and said, "See for yourself. You can see. We have so many." The narrator need not follow the girl's hand. She knew very well all belonged to her. She knew which things the girl meant. She just looked at the tea table. As a child, she had always liked the apple on the pewter plate. She said, "We use it for everything." Once we even ate off the plates hanging there on the wall. The narrator had found the burn mark on the tablecloth. Again, thoughts of her mother flooded her mind. She said, as if to herself, "My mother once asked me if I would help her polish the silver. I asked her which silver she meant, and she replied, surprised, that was the spoons, forks and knives. And that was a strange thing. I didn't know that cutlery we ate of every day was silver." The girl laughed again. The narrator asked. The narrator said, "I bet you don't know it is either." She asked, "What we eat with?" "Well, do you know?" she asked. She was hesitating in the room. She walked to the sideboard and wanted to open a drawer. She wanted to open, she wanted to look. Then narrator jumped up. She did not remember the time. She had to catch the train. She had to go back. The girl had her hand on the drawer. She said, "Don't you want to wait for my mother?" Then narrator said, "No, no, I must go." Then she walked to the door. The girl pulled the drawer open. As she stepped out, she could hear the sound of spoons and forks, ringing sound of spoons and forks. At the corner of the road, she looked up. The narrator looked up at the nameplate, Marconi Street. It said the narrator had been at number 46, so the address was correct. But now she did not want to remember it anymore. All those things had lost their importance for her. And what could she do with them in a small rented room, and where only a handful of cutlery could fit in the narrow table drawer? So she decided to forget the address of all the things she had to forget that seemed to her to be the easiest. She did not want to remember them. They were useless for her as she had lost her mother.